You promised you'd come back for me, Migo. That was the last thing I ever heard my sister say. Her 10-year-old voice breaking over the crackle of a payphone. That was 15 years ago. The day I lied, promising I'd return right before I ran away from that house, leaving Maria behind with the suffocating piety of our aunt, Tita Rosario. Now, Tita is gone, and I'm back, standing in front of that old stone house, the rusty key sweating in my palm. I didn't come to mourn. I came to sign the papers, sell this place, and finally erase the past. The moment I pushed open the heavy, narrow wood door, it wasn't just stale air that hit me. It was the smell of forgotten sin. The silence in the house was thick, heavy, like it had been holding its breath for far too long. It smelled of wilted sapobrita flowers, old candle wax, and the deep, musty scent of a tomb. The wind from the nearby lake couldn't seem to penetrate these walls. The Kappa's shell windows filtered the sunlight into a sickly, ghostly yellow glow, making everything look like it was preserved in old honey. I kept telling myself I was just here to clean up and get out. But as I walked through the living room, my eyes landed on something that stopped me cold. On a small table, Maria's bronze Kelentang gong set was waiting, but it wasn't dusty. In a room coated in the ashes of time, it was unnaturally bright. Someone had been polishing it. Someone had been waiting. And then I heard it from upstairs. Asterisk, ting, asterisk, a single high, clear note. It felt expectant. Just the house settling. I whispered to myself. My voice hoarse. Somewhere in the rafters, a tuco lizard clicked its tongue, the only normal sound in this suffocating cage. I didn't dare go upstairs. That night, I slept on the woven rattan couch, my shirt glued to my skin with sweat. The heat was unbearable, but the cold dread in my chest was worse. I was drifting in that space between sleep and waking when I heard it again. Asterisk, ting, ting. Asterisk, 2 notes this time. Closer. I shot bolt upright, my heart hammering against my ribs. The tuco had gone silent. The entire house was listening. The next day, I forced myself to finish the job. I had to go upstairs. Each step on the old wooden staircase groaned in protest. The air up here was even more oppressive. The smell of wax and wilted jasmine was overpowering. Tita Rosario's room was like a private chapel, filled with dozens of Santo Neo statues staring at me with their empty glass eyes. But it wasn't the smell of wax that was making me sick. There was another scent coiling underneath it, sweet, almost nauseating. Like forgotten fruit, left to ferment in a sealed bowl. I crossed the hall to Maria's room. The door was locked. I remembered Tita locking it right after I left, saying she wanted to keep things just as she left them. It sounded sentimental back then. Now, it sounded grotesque. I found the small, ice-cold key resting on the door jamb. When I opened the door, the stench hit me like a physical blow. A blast of hot, wet air, carrying that smell of rotten fruit and something else, something acidic. Maria's room wasn't dusty. Just like the Kelentang downstairs, it had been perfectly preserved. Her old rag doll lay face up on the bed, its button eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. Everything was neat. Everything except for the ornate aparador, the wardrobe, in the corner. It wasn't sitting straight. It was askew, as if someone had been pushing on it from the inside, and the stench was rolling out from behind it. A cold dread snaked its way down my spine. I moved closer, trying to pull the handle. It wouldn't budge. It felt blocked from the inside. I held my breath, bent down, and peered through the tiny crack between the cabinet doors. I saw nothing but darkness, but I could smell the rot, and I could feel warmth. Something was breathing in there. I stumbled back, slamming the bedroom door shut and leaning against it, panting. This had to be a joke. Tita was just an eccentric old woman. Maybe she'd locked a cat or some other animal in there, and it had died. Yes, That's all it was. Just an animal. I decided I would call the real estate agent right now. Tell them to handle it. But when I pulled out my phone, there was no signal. The thick stone walls of the Bahay Nabado had swallowed it whole. And then the storm hit. It came on so suddenly, as if the sky itself wanted to trap me here. The wind shrieked through the banana trees like a wail. Rain lashed against the Kappa's windows like thousands of tiny, frantic fingers tapping to get in. And with a deafening crack of thunder, the power died. I was plunged into near-total darkness, lit only by the weak glow of my phone screen. And in the low growl of the storm, I heard it, not just a single note, a melody, a slow, hesitant, painfully familiar melody. The lullaby our mother used to sing to Maria. The Kullantang was being played. It was coming from Maria's room. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "Stop it, please." Only the storm answered. But the melody continued, steady, patient, as if it had been playing that same song for 15 long years. Guilt. It was stronger than fear now. I had promised I'd come back. I had abandoned her. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe Tita had hidden something of Maria's in there. I pushed open Maria's door again. The room was a black void. My phone's light danced nervously on the walls. The melody wasn't coming from the Kullantang on the table. It was coming from inside the upper door, and it was mixed with another sound. A scraping. Asterisk, scritch, scritch, scritch. Asterisk, Maria? I whispered, terror and wild, insane hope rising in my throat. "Is that you?" The music and the scraping stopped instantly. A dreadful, false silence fell over the room. I pressed my ear against the cold wood of the wardrobe. "You promised." A muffled, choked whisper from within. It was Maria's voice. I screamed. I wasn't thinking anymore. I threw my entire body against the wardrobe. "Maria, I'm here. It's Miguel." The upper door was absurdly heavy. I shoved with all my strength as it scraped across the floor. It wasn't heavy with clothes. It was heavy because it was blocking something. I shined my phone into the gap I'd created. The wardrobe wasn't against the wall. There was a space behind it. And in that space was another door. A small, low door, like one for a cellar. It had no handle, and it was sealed shut, thick with layers of melted candle wax, just like the kind Tita used to seal her holy statues. She had locked her in. Tita, in her religious fanaticism, hadn't taken Maria to a hospital. She must have believed my sister was possessed. She had performed her own exorcism, and she had failed. "Maria, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I sobbed, clawing at the hardened wax with my fingernails. The scraping started again, frantic, from the other side of the small door. And then I heard a click. A bolt was being drawn. From the inside. Impossible. Tita Rosario had been dead for a week. Who drew the bolt? Who had been polishing the Kullantang? The small door swung open. A blast of hot, putrid air hit me, making me gag. My phone's light cut into the blackness inside. It was a narrow space, just a hollow between the walls. I saw an overturned bucket, moldy scraps of food. Tita had been feeding it, and in the corner, a huddled shape. I almost fainted with relief. She was alive. Emaciated, skin and bones, but alive. "Maria." I brought the light closer, and then it looked up. It wasn't Maria. It couldn't be. This thing, it was emaciated, but not weak. Its skin was a pale, grub-like white that had never seen the sun. Its long, matted black hair hung over its face. "Migo," it hissed, and its head tilted to the side with a dry, cracking sound. I fell back, hitting the wall hard. I tried to scream, but all the air had been stolen from my lungs. It began to crawl out of the hollow. It didn't walk. It moved like a spider, unwillingly fast. It stopped in the beam of my phone, right in the middle of the room. I wanted to run. I turned, but the bedroom door slammed shut. The bolt slid home with a definitive final thud. The house, it was a trap. It had kept her. Now it was keeping me. I turned back, trembling. The thing had stood up. It was still wearing Maria's old dress. It lifted its head fully, letting the matted hair fall away from its face. It had no eyes, just two dark, deep sockets. And then it smiled. It had no teeth. Instead, its gums were swollen and black, pierced with small, sharp shards of bronze, the broken pieces of the Kulintang. I waited, it whispered. Tita said you would never come back. Tita said you forgot. It took a lurching step toward me, but I knew you'd keep your promise. It tilted its head again. You came back, it hissed, the smile widening over the jagged bronze in its mouth. You came back? For me. My phone's light flickered once, twice, and died. I was plunged into darkness. Just the sound of the rain, the scraping sound on the floorboards moving closer, and the soft, satisfied asterisk ting asterisk of metal ringing right next to my ear.